In this video, I will go through the process I teach my undergraduate students for constructing their first descriptive literature review. The process works for other types of reviews as well, but will need to be more in-depth and systematic at the graduate level. Please note that expectations for a descriptive literature review may be different where you are going to school, so please check with your teacher regarding any expectations. Also, if you plan to publish a review, the formula that I give you will need to be adjusted. You will still want to follow the general steps, but again, they will need to be done in more depth, systematically executed, and documented. You may want to search for a published process and follow it. For any review, staying organized is important. This process will help you stay organized. Even if you are asked to do a descriptive literature review that is similar to the one in this video, it is important that you know the assignment criteria within your course. These criteria are often developed for reasons that are targeted to your current skill level as well as course expectations. Take the time to read whatever instructions you are given and ask your teacher to clarify anything that you aren't sure of before you get started. Once you have a clear picture of the assignment expectations, take some time to get to know the literature before you commit to a topic. Think of it like dating. You don't want to marry the first person you show an interest in without knowing more about them. You probably even want to see what it is like to kiss them, right? Likewise, before you commit to a literature review topic, take a moment to browse the databases to see what is out there that may be of interest to you. Do a rough check to see if you could easily find enough literature on the topic that meets your assignment criteria. If you are having a hard time now, try something else. Don't get stuck trying to do a literature review on a topic with no literature. Once you have a feel for a few topics, pick something that keeps you up at night. You want to be interested in your topic since literature reviews take a lot of time and often evolve into other projects. Who knows? You might use your literature review as the basis for a research proposal, master's application, or to inform your clinical practice. One thing that is very important is targeting your review. It needs to be narrow enough that you will have a common focus across all the studies, but broad enough that there is literature to discuss. The most common problems my students have seems to be that they come in with either so much literature that is not at all related, or they can't find anything. All of your literature should be specific to one concept that is explicit within each article. In my class, you also need to focus on one patient-centered illness or issue. The combination of these two things gives you the overall topic and title for your review. For example, you could choose to examine the quality of life of patients suffering from a mental illness. Now that you know what your topic is, return to the databases and search for literature that fits all of the criteria you have for your review. It is good to keep a checklist handy so you don't waste time looking at a study you can't use. Don't read the entire article. Skip to the sections you need, like the publication information, purpose, design, sample, and main findings, to see if your article will fit with your review. For example, if you are limited to literature published within the last 10 years, why would you read an article that is older? If you can't use a mixed method study in your review, why would you waste your time reading one? Having a checklist with clear inclusion and exclusion criteria for your review will save you a lot of time. Once you have identified your literature, you need to group it into piles to talk about. Find out how many topics or piles of literature need to be discussed within your main focus. There are many ways to divide up your studies for discussion. First, examine the purposes of your studies. If you notice that you have a number of similar purpose statements, you have likely identified a pile. Then look at the paradigm and designs of each study. It is easiest to synthesize a pile if the paradigm and designs are consistent. If you have too many studies with a common purpose, you may even want to divide the pile by design. You may have one qualitative pile that relates to the perceptions of your topic, and another quantitative pile that measures it. If that doesn't help, you may want to divide your literature up by the sample type. Often, students will talk about the patient, family, and nurse perspectives on an issue. In any pile, you want to have some common findings to talk about when you come to synthesize the literature. Make sure your piles make sense before you start to write your review. Also, check to see if there is a minimum number of articles that you can include in a pile. I don't allow my students to call 2 similar articles a pile. They need at least 3. You may find that you need to return to the literature after you have identified your piles to find more literature that fits the piles you've just identified. Often, finding the literature is the hardest part of this entire process. An example of how to table articles was given in a previous video. Below this video, you will also find a link to the tabled articles from an in-class activity. Tabling your literature is an important step that you should not skip. Your literature review is essentially your tables in an essay format. Make sure that you consistently put all the information you will need from your articles into the table in the same order so you can easily write your review. For instance, the tables in this example are missing the type of sampling used as well as some detail about the study design. If you need that in your review, you would want to include it in the table so you don't need to go back to all your articles while you are writing. It is handy to develop a guide for yourself that outlines all the required information. There is a link to an example below this video. Again, remember that it may need to be modified. Next, follow the formula and put your descriptive literature review into writing. Organize your tables by piles, then use your tables, one pile at a time, to put your review into writing. Make sure you follow each step in the formula in order. An example of an undergraduate level descriptive literature review is provided at the link below this video. The review at the link below this video was written by me in a little over 3 hours, after I had completed the tables. I'm not saying that you can complete a literature review in 3 hours, especially if it's your first time putting one together. However, this example does illustrate how critical it is to have your tables completed properly. Finding the information and editing the tables for the review was what took me the longest. Please don't let your teacher be the first person to read your paper. Make sure you read it over and get someone else to read it so you can catch simple mistakes like missing words. Also, remember to check for proper formatting, which in my program is APA format. A lot of marks can be lost for simple mistakes. Getting someone else to read your paper over critically could be the difference between a B or an A. Remember, however, that you are still responsible for how you respond to that criticism. Don't just do what they say. Think about the suggested changes. You may wish to visit the links below or one of the related videos for more information. My ebook is also available for purchase online if you are having a hard time with the language of research. You can take a sneak preview through Google Books. You may also want to check out some of my research or APA videos for more information. Happy DLRing!